I have scoured through the medical literature at all the randomized controlled trials, and the single most successful strategy to date is a diet of whole plant foods. The single most effective intervention like that ever published in the peer-reviewed scientific medical literature, a whole food plant-based diet. That works better than anything else studied to date.
The whole plant food diet means we're getting the whole plant, that we're getting that cell wall. We're not going to take parts out of the plant and try to synthetically drive it. But we're going to use the whole plant. We can cook it, that's fine. But what we're going to find is that the cell walls in the plant cells have the cellulose and the other fiber that needs to feed our bowel bacteria. So we see the effects that it has on weight loss.
I mean, we've known for more than 40 years that those who eat predominantly plant-based weigh, on average, about 30 pounds lighter than the general population. But you don't know if it's the diet itself until you put it to the test. In 2017, a group of researchers in New Zealand published a broad study, a 12-week randomized controlled trial in the region with the highest obesity rates, the poorest region in the country. Overweight individuals were randomized to either standard medical care or semi-weekly classes offering advice and encouragement to eat a low-fat diet centered around fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes, which are beans, split peas, chickpeas, and lentils. And that's all it was, just empowerment with knowledge. No meals were provided. People were merely informed about the benefits of plant-based eating and encouraged to, incorporate it into their own lives. No significant change in the control group, but the plant-based intervention group, even without any restrictions on portions, being able to freely eat all the healthy foods they wanted, lost, on average, 19 pounds by the end of the 3-month study. Look, 19 pounds is a respectable weight loss.
And it was done with plant-based food, whole plant food, cooked well, seasoned, learning how to cook, learning how to capture the flavor, learning how to use the whole plant food.
But what happened next? At the end of those 12 weeks, class was dismissed and no more instruction was given. The researchers were curious, how much weight the subjects had gained back after being released from the study. So at the 6-month mark, everyone was invited back to get reweighed. The plant-based group had left the 3-month study 19 pounds lighter, but by 6 months they were only down about 27 pounds. They got even better. The plant-based group was feeling so good physically and mentally, had been able to come off so many of their medications that they were sticking with the diet on their own, and the weight had continued to come off.
Now they're getting their fiber from the cell walls of the plant to stabilize the gut. The fiber helps electrically stimulate everything and feeds the gut bacteria. So now they're making the hormones serotonin, GABA, dopamine, oxytocin. They're making everything themselves. They don't need a pharmacy. They're making everything inside themselves. They're establishing health, vitality to the human being. Not only is this the most successful weight loss, it lowers blood sugar for diabetes, improves kidney function. In fact, it is the universal diet that we now know helps virtually everything.
All right, what about a year later? Even in studies that last a whole year, where people are, put on a particular diet, coached the entire year to stick to it, by the end of the year, any initial weight loss in the first few months tends to creep on back. The broad study only lasted 3 months, yet after it was all over, those who had been randomized to the plant-based group not only lost dozens of pounds, they kept it off. They not only lost more weight at 6 and 12 months than any other comparable trial. That was months after the study had already ended. Whole food plant-based diet achieved the greatest weight loss ever recorded compared to any other such trial published in the medical literature. You can read the record-breaking study free in full at nature.com/article/NUTD2173, or just point your phone camera at the screen and pick off the QR code.
Now, if you want to go on the plant-based diet, it's very simple. To be able to just get the fruits and vegetables, the spices, the legumes, the grains, and to prepare these things, it just needs a little bit of recipe training, and your palate will readjust very simply. And it's just getting the whole plant foods more into your diet.
Any diet that results in a reduction in calorie intake can result in weight loss. Dropping pounds isn't so much the issue. The problem is keeping them off. And a key difference between plant-based nutrition and more traditional approaches to weight loss is people are encouraged to eat ad libitum, meaning you can eat as much as you want. No calorie counting, no portion control, just eating. Right? The strategy is to improve the quality of the food rather than restricting the quantity of food.
Learning to eat right, change the food, change your life, and learning to eat what the human body was meant to eat. Whole plant foods. This should be our primary source of diet.
If you put people on a diet packed with fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and beans, and allow them to eat as much as they want, they end up eating about 50% fewer calories than they otherwise would. Wait, how can you keep people satisfied removing 1,000 calories out of their daily diet? By eating more high bulk, low calorie density foods, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and beans, and fewer calorie dense foods, the meats, cheeses, sugars, and fats. But it may not just be the calories in side of the equation.
When you start to get the whole plant foods like these smoothies, you're getting these cell walls. This will take a little bit more effort to digest, and you're starting to get the proper fiber that people need. And if we can learn what not to eat the high-fat foods and the boiled in oil foods and the nitrates, we start to learn more about this, what not to eat and what to eat, you start to get more healthy.
Those eating more plant-based appear to effectively be burning more calories in their sleep. The resting metabolic rate of those eating more plant-based maybe 10% higher or more, a boost of metabolism that can translate into burning off hundreds of extra calories a day more without doing a thing. Eating plant-based, you burn more calories just being alive, just existing.
Yes, you can lose weight while you sleep. Your metabolic rate goes up when you start getting these high fiber foods. This produces the ability to balance the body, getting the different foods that you need. And if you use hot air popcorn and other things, you can get the fiber and increase your health.
Food plant-based diets have been shown to actually reverse heart disease. That's what Ornish and Pritikin used. So what appears to be the most effective diet for weight loss just so happens to be the only diet ever proven to reverse heart disease in the majority of patients. If my grandma didn't have to die like that, maybe no one's grandma has to die like that. If that's all a plant-based diet could do, reverse the #1 killer of men and women, shouldn't that kind of be the default diet to proven otherwise? And the fact that it can also be so effective in treating, arresting, or reversing other leading killers like type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure would seem to make the case for plant-based eating simply overwhelming. Only one diet has ever been shown to do all that, a diet centered around whole plant foods.
The benefits of the whole plant food for weight loss, to improve the mind, to improve the blood, to improve everything. It's incredible, powerful, earth-changing. We now recognize that we have to get the cell walls. We can't strip them away. We have to get the whole plant food, and it's easy to change your palate and to get this type of food. Within just a short period of time, your palate will reorganize. And once you start to make these hormones in your gut, the happiness hormones, the stress reduction, the motivation, the bonding hormones, your life becomes better in 1,000 ways, physically and mentally. If you learn what not to eat, then learn what to eat, and learn that we have to avoid these processed foods, the junk foods. They don't have the fiber in them. They're high calorie, low nutrition, low fiber. We must avoid these. Now we can start to get back to true health. So now you know we have to get to whole food, plant-based for any disease, mental, physical, whatever. We now know that we're going to have a happier, healthier life if we can increase whole plant foods.
Your microbiome is nourished by meals like this, rich in soluble fiber, also referred to as resistant starch. Soluble fiber can't be digested by your body, but instead becomes food for your gut bacteria. Most starch is easily digested. Starch is dissolved in the small intestine and then absorbed by your body, providing you with energy and nutrients. The remaining non-digestible portion is called resistant starch or soluble fiber. The soluble fiber continues its journey through your gut and arrives at the large intestine. We see that the soluble fiber has become exposed to the healthy bacteria of the gut microbiome. This species of bacteria specialize in breaking down soluble fiber. This breakdown process provides the bacteria with the fuel they need to survive. As they use the soluble fiber for energy, they release small carbohydrate molecules. The neighboring bacteria feed on these carbohydrates. As the bacteria feed, they excrete even smaller molecules as waste. One of the final waste products is called butyrate, an energy source for your body. As the butyrate builds up, it is absorbed by the large intestine. The presence of butyrate encourages blood to flow into the vessels of the large intestine, keeping the tissue healthy. If your diet includes enough soluble fiber, these cells will use butyrate as their main source of energy. Here, we can see the molecular surface of one of the intestinal cells. The surface is covered in special proteins that actively pump butyrate molecules into the cell. Once inside, they can be harvested for energy. In addition, butyrate has other benefits. Intestinal cells are sensitive to DNA damage caused by toxic foods and artificial ingredients. This cell's DNA has been damaged, resulting in a mutation. More damage could accumulate over time as the cell divides, which could lead to colon cancer. But a steady supply of butyrate allows the damage to be more easily detected, and the cell can activate a suicide program in response. Because the damaged cell destroys itself, it can't progress to form a cancer. A starved microbiome is unable to protect you from cancer. By eating foods rich in soluble fiber-resistant starch, you can nourish your microbiome and improve your health.
When bacteria digest fiber, they produce short-chain fatty acids that nourish the gut barrier, improve immune function, and can help prevent inflammation, which reduces the risk of cancer.
The fiber that we're talking about comes from the cell walls of the plant cells. Animal cells have a soft membrane. When you eat meat, it's more easy to digest. You don't get that fiber. The fiber comes in from the cell walls of plants. And we need to have the whole cell, the whole plant. We have to get the whole plant foods. But our society has decided to remove many of the cell walls. Like in the juice, apple juice, orange juice, they removed the cell walls. You see, they removed that. Now with smoothies, we can get back the cell walls. And we get that fiber that comes from the cell walls. With flour, they removed the cell wall from the flour. They remove the cell wall from the sugar. So all of these processed foods have now become low fiber and thereby problems. We need to get good whole plant foods so we can understand more about all of the benefits that happen from whole plant foods. When you don't get enough fiber and you take in sugar, you can get bad bacteria that will take over your brain.
Signals from stimuli are converted into tiny electrical pulses. These pulses propagate via synapses onto the afferent neuron of the vagus nerve. Vagal neurons carry the sensory information to the brainstem, linking the signals generated inside the small intestine to the brain. The neuropod cell connection with the vagus nerve serves as a conduit for food in the gut to influence brain function within seconds. This connection is also a potential portal for gut pathogens to access the brain.
Now we can see and one can understand the mechanism of how this bacteria through the vagus nerve can take over the brain. And the sugar-fed bacteria will make you crave the sugar, crave antibiotics, but antibiotics also feed it. And this will create a problem that lowers your IQ, lowers your memory, makes it unable to deal with stress. You cannot make the different hormones, and the bad bacteria take over your brain, make you crave the food that feeds them, not the food that feeds you. And whole foods with fiber, whole plant foods, are the answer. Our society has made several mistakes with nutrition, and removing the cell wall from plants is one of them. Overeating of meat, boiling in oil, white sugar, a host of other different mistakes. But now we start to really understand that what we need is, as the Bible told us, that the food will come from the seeds of the fruits of plants.